the diplomatic vessel. Harmony glided through the void toward Tempest Prime. Ambassador Claire Mitchell stood at the observation deck, watching the massive gas giant grow larger through the reinforced viewport. The neutral space station orbited, the planet like a metallic moon, its lights blinking in carefully programmed patterns. "First time seeing one of these neutral zones?" Commander Jake Harrison asked, joining her at the viewport. His formal diplomatic uniform was crisp and new, the buttons catching the light from the distant star. Claire nodded. 20 years in the diplomatic corps, and this is my first contact with the Caraxians. Strange how we've never met them before. Not so strange, Dr. Lisa Wong chimed in from across the room. She was hunched over her portable science station, adjusting dials and checking readings. They've been busy conquering systems on the far edge of the galaxy. We're just the latest in their expansion path. The 3 humans were the core diplomatic team chosen for this crucial meeting. Claire was the lead ambassador, chosen for her calm demeanor and years of experience in tense negotiations. Jake served as their military attaché, though his role was purely ceremonial, or so the Caraxians believed. Lisa was their science advisor, tasked with understanding alien technology and customs. "Incoming transmission from Admiral Peterson," the ship's AI announced. A holographic display materialized in the center of the room. "Admiral," Claire acknowledged, giving a slight nod. "Ambassador Mitchell, we're monitoring everything from here. Remember, this is just a preliminary meeting. Don't commit to anything binding." Kyle Peterson's weathered face showed concern. "The Caraxians have conquered 12 systems in 6 months. Every species they've met has been given the same choice: submit or be destroyed." "Understood, Admiral. We'll be careful." The transmission ended, leaving the 3 diplomats alone again. Through the viewport, they could now make out individual structures on the space station. It was huge, easily 10 times larger than their small vessel. "Dr. Wong, what do we know about Caraxian?" "Culture?" Claire asked. Lisa pulled up data on her display. "They're a warrior society. Strength is everything to them. They view diplomacy as a formality before conquest. Physical size and aggressive posture determine social rank. So they'll see us as weak," Jake observed. "Exactly. Humans are smaller than most species they've encountered. Our diplomatic approach will seem like weakness to them." Claire smiled slightly. "Let them think that. Sometimes it's useful when your opponent underestimates you." The Harmony received docking clearance, and soon they were secured to the station. As they prepared to disembark, Claire noticed Jake checking his uniform carefully, adjusting his cufflinks and smoothing his collar. "Nervous?" she asked. Jake grinned. "Just making sure everything's in order. First impressions matter, right?" They entered the docking bay through an airlock. The gravity felt slightly heavier here, adjusted to Caraxian preferences. The bay was massive, designed for ships much larger than the Harmony. At the far end, a delegation waited. The Caraxians were impressive. Each warrior stood nearly 8 feet tall, their bodies covered in natural armor plating. Their leader wore additional ceremonial armor decorated with trophies, bones and metals from conquered species. "Warlord Thrax, according to their briefing. Ambassador Mitchell?" The translation device rendered Thrax's voice as a deep rumble. "You honor us with your presence." Claire stepped forward, keeping her posture respectful but not submissive. "Warlord Thrax, we come seeking understanding between our peoples." The Caraxian delegation seemed amused. Several warriors whispered among themselves, their compound eyes blinking in patterns Claire couldn't interpret. "Understanding," Thrax repeated, as if tasting the word. "Yes, let us achieve understanding in the diplomatic chamber." They were led through corridors designed for beings much larger than humans. Lisa had to stretch to reach control panels, while Jake ducked under doorways clearly built for Caraxian height. The aliens watched these struggles with barely concealed amusement. The diplomatic chamber was impressive. Massive view screens showed the gas giant outside, while holographic displays floated in the air. The conference table was enormous, with seats that dwarfed the human delegation. "Please be seated," Thrax gestured. The human chairs had clearly been adjusted downward, but even so, Claire's feet barely touched the floor. As they settled in, Jake continued his fidgeting with his uniform. He adjusted his collar, touched his cufflinks repeatedly, and shifted in his seat. The Caraxians exchanged glances, clearly interpreting this as nervousness. "Your vessel is small," one of the Caraxian warriors observed. "The Harmony is a diplomatic ship," Claire replied calmly. "We come in peace, not for war." This statement caused more whispers among the Caraxians. Their body language suggested they found the concept laughable. Lisa began setting up her scientific equipment on the table. To the Caraxians, it probably looked like standard analytical tools, devices for measuring atmospheric composition, radiation levels, and other environmental factors. "Warlord Thrax," Claire began, "we understand you wish to discuss territorial boundaries." "Among other things," Thrax replied. His mandibles clicked in what their cultural briefing indicated was amusement. "The Empire has grown large. Your systems happen to be in our path." The casual way he said this sent a chill through the chamber. It wasn't a negotiation to him, it was a notification. "Our systems have been claimed for over 50 years, Claire pointed out. "Surely arrangements can be made." "Arrangements," Thrax considered this. "Yes, we could arrange for a peaceful transfer of authority. Your species would be protected." Jake's fidgeting intensified. He pulled a small data pad from his pocket, seemingly to take notes, then put it away again. His hands kept moving to different parts of his uniform. "Protected how?" Lisa asked, genuinely curious. "As valued subjects of the Empire. You would serve in capacities that suit your physical limitations." The insult was clear, though delivered politely. The Caraxians saw humans as physically inferior, suitable only for menial tasks. Claire maintained her diplomatic composure. "We would prefer to maintain our independence while establishing friendly relations with the Empire." The chamber fell, silent. The Caraxians exchanged long looks, their alien expressions unreadable to human eyes. Finally, Thrax spoke. "Warlord Thrax," Claire said, matching his formal tone. "I believe we should recess to consider our respective positions. These are weighty matters." "Indeed," Thrax agreed, though something in his posture had changed. "But first there is a matter of protocol. In the Empire, all diplomatic meetings include a demonstration of respect. Your weapons, if you carry any, should be declared." The request hung in the air. Jake's fidgeting stopped entirely. Lisa looked up from her equipment. Claire smiled politely. "Of course, Warlord. As diplomats, we carry no weapons. Our vessel is similarly unarmed." The Caraxians seemed satisfied with this answer. Too satisfied, perhaps. As the meeting recessed, the human delegation was escorted to guest quarters. Once alone, Claire's diplomatic mask finally slipped. "They're planning something," she said quietly. Jake nodded, his earlier nervousness completely gone. His movements were now precise and controlled. "Did you see how they positioned themselves near the exits? And their questions about our weapon systems were too casual," Lisa added. "They're testing us." Claire looked out the guest quarters' small window. Their ship, the Harmony, seemed tiny next to the station. "Let them test. Tomorrow's session will be very interesting." The next morning, the human delegation returned to the grand diplomatic chamber. The massive room felt even larger today, with additional Caraxian warriors positioned along the walls. Warlord Thrax sat at the head of the enormous table, his trophies catching the light from the gas giant outside. Claire took her seat, her expression calm and professional. Jake sat to her left, already adjusting his collar and touching his cufflinks in that nervous way from yesterday. Lisa arranged her scientific equipment methodically, occasionally muttering to herself about atmospheric readings. "Ambassador Mitchell," Thrax began, his deep voice rumbling through the chamber. "Have you considered our proposal?" "We have given it careful thought, Warlord," Claire replied. She spoke slowly, choosing each word carefully. "However, we would like to propose an alternative arrangement." The Caraxian warriors murmured among themselves. Some shifted their weight, armor clanking. They seemed amused by the idea that humans thought they had options. "Please elaborate," Thrax said, his mandibles clicking in what passed for their version of a smile. Claire opened a small folder, pulling out papers with handwritten notes. "We propose a mutual non-aggression pact. Our systems remain under human control, while we pledge not to interfere with Caraxian expansion in other sectors." The chamber erupted in low growls and rumbles. To the Caraxians, this wasn't just unreasonable, it was insulting. One warrior stepped forward, his armor decorated with bones from defeated enemies. "Little humans," he said, his translator making his voice sound condescending. "You misunderstand your position. The Empire does not make deals with prey." Jake's fidgeting increased. He kept reaching into his pocket for his datapad, then changing his mind. His hands moved to his sleeves, adjusting invisible wrinkles. The nervous energy seemed to radiate from him. "Perhaps," Lisa interjected, looking up. From her equipment, "we could discuss this from a scientific perspective." She began displaying holographic diagrams of star systems. "You see, human space creates a buffer zone between the Empire and the Zerion Collective." Thrax leaned forward, interested despite himself. "The Zerions are irrelevant. Actually," Lisa continued, launching into detailed explanations about gravitational fields and jump points, "our defensive positions could complement your expansion strategy if used properly." The Caraxians grew confused as Lisa delved deeper into technical jargon. Terms like quantum flux and hyperspatial matrices filled the air. Several warriors looked to their leader, uncertain how to respond to this verbose human female. Meanwhile, Jake continued his nervous habits. He pulled a pen from his pocket, clicked it several times, then put it away. He straightened his jacket for the 5th time in as many minutes. One of the Caraxian guards noticed and whispered something to his companion, who chuckled, a sound like grinding stone. "Dr. Wong," Thrax interrupted, "your enthusiasm for science is noted, but we are here to discuss reality, not theoretical physics." Claire resumed control of the conversation. "Of course, Warlord. Let us speak plainly." She paused, letting the silence grow heavy. "What exactly does the Empire want from humanity?" "Submission," a Caraxian warrior said bluntly. "All species submit or die. This has been our way for generations." Jake nearly dropped his pen. He fumbled to catch it, knocking over his water glass in the process. The liquid spread across the table, and he grabbed a cloth to clean it, apologizing profusely. The Caraxians watched with barely hidden contempt. "Submission is not in our nature," Claire said carefully. "Surely there are other options the Empire has considered?" Thrax stood, his massive frame casting a shadow over the humans. "Other species have said the same. They fought. They lost. They serve now." He gestured to one of his trophies, a weapon from some long-conquered race. "The Thakari were warriors. They fell in 3 days. The Bendeshi had superior technology. They lasted 2 weeks. All fell to the Empire's might." Lisa busied herself with her equipment, seemingly oblivious to the threat. She held up various instruments, taking readings of everything in the room. To the Caraxians, she appeared to be a nervous scientist, more interested in data than danger. "Warlord," Claire said, maintaining her diplomatic tone, "surely the cost of conquest outweighs the benefits. These ongoing wars must drain your resources." The chamber fell silent. Several Caraxians moved closer, their armor creating a wall of intimidation behind Thrax. "You misunderstand the Empire's position, little human," Thrax said slowly. "We do not war for resources. We war because it is our nature. Conquest gives purpose. Submission brings order." Jake's pen slipped from his fingers again. As he bent to retrieve it, he bumped his head on the table edge. The Caraxians openly laughed now, deep rumbling sounds that shook the floor. "Perhaps," Claire suggested, trying to redirect, "we could discuss trade agreements. Human technology might interest the Empire." "Your technology?" A Caraxian scientist stepped forward, consulting his own device. Our scans show your vessel carries minimal defensive capabilities. Your personal equipment is primitive. What could you possibly offer? Lisa looked up, blinking in confusion. Oh, these readings? They're just environmental sensors. We're very thorough about documenting first contact situations. She held up a device that looked like a standard scanner. We measure everything. Radiation levels, gravitational fluctuations, even molecular composition of the air we breathe. The Caraxian scientist examined the device from a distance, nodding dismissively. To him, it was exactly what it appeared to be: basic scientific equipment. Jake had finally recovered his pen but was now struggling with his jacket. One of the sleeves seemed to have caught on something. As he twisted to free himself, another water glass tipped over. "My apologies," he stammered, reaching for more napkins. "These formal uniforms can be challenging." The Caraxians exchanged amused glances. This human military officer was proving to be remarkably clumsy and nervous for someone supposedly representing Earth's armed forces. Claire tried once more. "Warlord, isn't there something your empire values beyond conquest? Cultural exchanges, shared knowledge?" Thrax's answer was immediate and final. "The empire values strength. Strength in battle. Strength in will. Strength in purpose." He gestured to his warriors. "We have seen nothing from humanity that demonstrates such strength." "Nothing at all?" Claire asked quietly. "You send 3 diplomats in a small, unarmed vessel. Your military officer cannot manage his own clothing. Your scientist babbles about readings no one cares about." Thrax's voice grew harder. "You show weakness at every turn." The tension in the room grew thick. Jake had given up on his sleeve and was now fiddling with his earpiece as if checking its connection. Lisa had turned back to her equipment, adjusting dials with shaking hands. "I see," Claire said softly. "And what happens to species you deem weak?" Thrax's answer sent chills through the chamber. "They serve, or they cease to exist." The diplomatic session continued for another hour, but the tone had shifted. The Caraxians grew more aggressive in their demands, more dismissive of human concerns. They spoke openly about how they would divide human space among their warriors, discussing which systems had the most valuable resources. Jake continued his nervous fidgeting throughout, dropping things and stumbling over himself. Lisa remained absorbed in her scientific readings, occasionally making comments that further confused the Caraxian delegation. As the session drew to a close, Thrax made one final statement. "Tomorrow, Ambassador Mitchell, we will present our final terms. I suggest your species accept them. The alternative would be unfortunate." The human delegation was escorted back to their quarters, the weight of the threat hanging heavy in the air. Once alone, the dynamic between them shifted dramatically. "Well," Claire said, shedding her diplomatic tone entirely, "that could have gone better." Jake straightened, his clumsy demeanor vanishing instantly. "Did you see their tactical positions? They're preparing for something." Lisa looked up from her equipment, her scientific confusion replaced by sharp alertness. "My readings confirm it. They've been charging weapon systems all morning." Claire nodded grimly. "Tomorrow's session won't be about negotiation. It'll be about submission or elimination." "Let them think we're weak," Jake said, his voice now steady and controlled. "It's working perfectly." "Too perfectly," Lisa warned. "They're not just underestimating us anymore, they're planning to act on it." Claire looked out at the gas giant, its swirling storms reflecting her thoughts. "Then we'd better be ready." The final session began differently. Instead of 3 diplomats, a dozen Caraxian warriors lined the walls. Thrax arrived with additional guards, their weapons clearly visible. The diplomatic chamber now felt like an arena. Claire entered first, followed by Jake and Lisa. Today, Jake's fidgeting seemed even worse. His hands moved constantly between his pockets, his collar, and his sleeves. Lisa carried more equipment than usual, muttering about additional environmental readings. "Ambassador Mitchell," Thrax announced, his voice echoing off the chamber walls. "Today we end our discussions. The Empire has decided. We look forward to hearing your position, Warlord, Claire replied calmly. Thrax gestured to a warrior who stepped forward carrying a large device. It projected a holographic map of human space, with red markers spreading across it like an infection. Human space will be divided among my warriors. Your species will be relocated to designated service worlds. Your technology will belong to the Empire. Your ships will fly our colors. The chamber fell silent. Claire looked at the map, then back at Thrax. And if we refuse? Refusal is not possible. Thrax's mandibles clicked. The Empire has never failed to take what it wants. Your small fleet cannot stop us. Jake dropped his pen again. As he bent to get it, he knocked over his chair. The clanking sound filled the room. Several Caraxian warriors laughed, their voices like grinding stones. Warlord, Claire said carefully, surely you understand that enslaving an entire species will create resistance. Resistance has been tried before, a warrior interjected. It has always failed. Lisa raised her hand, timidly. From a scientific standpoint, forced relocation creates unstable social dynamics. Enough, Thrax roared. We waste time with words. The decision is made. He stood, towering over the humans. You will accept our terms, or we will take what we want by force. Your ship will be impounded. You will remain here as prisoners until your government surrenders. The warriors moved, blocking the exits. Their weapons hummed with ready energy. The trap was sprung. Claire remained seated, surprisingly calm. I see. So this was never a negotiation. Negotiations are for equals, Thrax said. You are not our equals. Jake's nervous hands had stopped moving. Lisa had put down her equipment. The change was subtle, but something shifted in the room's atmosphere. Warlord Thrax, Claire said, her voice suddenly different. The diplomatic uncertainty was gone, replaced by something harder. I believe there's been a misunderstanding. No misunderstanding, human. Submit or... The misunderstanding, Claire interrupted, rising from her chair, is yours. Jake's clumsy movements stopped entirely. His hands moved with sudden precision to his cufflinks, not adjusting them, activating them. You see, Claire continued, you assumed human diplomats come unarmed. The room exploded into motion. Jake's uniform transformed, panels unfolded, revealing hidden armor plating. The cufflinks he'd been touching expanded into weapon systems that covered his forearms. His clumsy stumbling was gone, replaced by the fluid movements of a soldier. Lisa's scientific equipment shifted and reconfigured. The environmental sensors became targeting systems. Defensive fields shimmered to life around each human, deflecting the first shots from confused Caraxian guards. But the biggest surprise was Claire herself. She moved like lightning, no longer the careful diplomat but a trained warrior. Her formal dress concealed armor that sprang to life, while hidden compartments in her outfit revealed an arsenal of compact weapons. Protocol 7, she shouted. The Kati Chamber's environmental systems responded. Human technology that had been secretly integrated during their stay activated. Gravity fluctuated, lights strobed. Tactical displays appeared on every surface. The Caraxians, caught completely off guard, stumbled in the changing gravity. Their weapon systems malfunctioned as human countermeasures engaged. Warriors who had seemed so confident moments ago now struggled to maintain their footing. Thrax roared in confusion and rage. Impossible! Our scan showed no weapons. Jake moved with military precision, no trace of his earlier clumsiness. That's because you didn't know what to scan for. His voice was steady, controlled. Earth diplomats have been armed for centuries. We just don't advertise it. Lisa's equipment had become a complete tactical suite. Force fields, targeting systems, and communication arrays operated seamlessly. My readings were mapping your systems, downloading your tactical data and preparing countermeasures, she explained calmly. Caraxian warriors tried to advance, but found themselves outmatched. Human technology they hadn't even detected was now neutralizing their weapons. Warriors who had mocked human weakness were being subdued by beings they thought were helpless. Claire moved through the chaos with deadly efficiency. As she passed Thrax, she spoke without breaking stride. "You made two critical errors, Warlord." She ducked under a weapon blast that would have taken her head off yesterday. Today she moved like the wind. First, you assumed peaceful means weak. Her fist connected with a warrior's armor, and somehow, impossibly, the giant alien staggered back. Second, you forgot to ask about human diplomatic protocols. Within minutes, every Caraxian warrior in the chamber was either unconscious or restrained. Thrax himself was on his knees, held in place by some kind of stasis field generated from Jake's transformed uniform. The chamber was quiet, except for the hum of active technology. The three humans, no longer playing roles, stood among the subdued, Caraxians like wolves among sheep. "All diplomatic personnel in the service of Earth are trained soldiers," Claire explained, holstering a weapon that had materialized from nowhere. "Military service is mandatory for diplomatic corps positions." Jake checked his weapons, completely at ease now. My nervous fidgeting was running diagnostics on our gear and mapping the room's defensive positions. Lisa packed away her equipment with practiced efficiency. Every reading I took was part of our tactical assessment. We knew this would happen from the moment we detected weapon charging yesterday. Thrax struggled against his restraints. "This is impossible. No species has ever—" "That's because every other species you've met has fought you on your terms," Claire interrupted. "Strength against strength, ships against ships, warriors against warriors." She knelt beside him, no longer the polite diplomat, but not cruel either. "Humans learned long ago that the best battles are the ones your enemy doesn't realize they're fighting until they've already lost." Through the chamber's communication systems, klaxons were sounding. The Harmony, their small diplomatic vessel, was no longer small and harmless. Hidden systems had activated, revealing a ship far more advanced than it appeared. "Your warlord has been subdued," came Admiral Peterson's voice through the speakers. "Caraxian vessels, power down your weapons. You have exactly 1 minute to comply." On the view screen, they could see Caraxian warships desperately trying to target the Harmony. But the little ship moved like nothing they'd seen before, firing precisely targeted shots that disabled enemy weapons without destroying the ships themselves. One by one, Caraxian vessels went dark. "This is not possible," Thrax whispered, his voice small. "We are the Empire. We are strength itself." Claire stood, looking down at him with something that might have been pity. "Warlord Thrax, you confused strength with obvious. You confused diplomat with helpless. You confused peace with weakness." She gestured to Jake and Lisa, both standing casually but ready for action. "We came hoping for real negotiations, but we prepared for war. That's what human diplomats do." The chamber doors opened. Human Marines in full combat armor entered, their weapons trained on the restrained Caraxians, not from the Harmony. These came from hidden deployment bays within the station itself. "Your Empire met its match today," Claire continued. "Not because we were stronger, but because you never realized you were fighting us. As Caraxian warriors were led away." Thrax looked up at the humans one last time. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something like fear and respect. "What happens now?" he asked. Claire smiled, a real smile, not the diplomatic mask she'd worn for days. "Now we have real negotiations between equals." The diplomatic chamber had transformed into a battlefield, but the battle was already over. Caraxian warriors lay unconscious or restrained across the floor. Warlord Thrax knelt in the center of the room, held in place by shimmering energy fields. Claire walked among the subdued Caraxians, her formal diplomatic dress now revealing plates of armor underneath. She moved like a predator, checking each fallen warrior to ensure they were secure. "Status report," she said into her earpiece. "All Caraxian vessels have powered down their weapons," Admiral Peterson's voice responded. "They're asking for instructions from their warlord. Tell them to wait. We're not finished here yet." Jake stood guard near the entrance, his ridiculous clumsiness completely gone. His posture was perfect, his movements precise. The nervous officer who had dropped his pen so many times was now a statue of military discipline. Lisa worked at a portable console, analyzing data streams. "I'm getting interesting readings from their ships. Their technology is more advanced than we thought, but they never bothered to update their sensor packages. They've been winning so easily they got lazy," Claire observed. She stopped in front of Thrax. "Isn't that right, Warlord?" Thrax glared up at her. "What are you?" "We're human diplomats, I told you that already." Claire knelt to meet his eyes. "The difference is you thought that meant something different than it actually does." She gestured to the disabled warriors around them. "You've conquered 12 systems in 6 months. Every species you met either surrendered or died. None of them had our particular approach to diplomacy." Jake moved to her side. "In human military doctrine, diplomats are the first line of defense. Every ambassador, every consul, every trade negotiator, we're all soldiers first." "It's not enough to be good at talking," Lisa added, not looking up from her console. "You have to be ready when talking fails." Thrax struggled against his restraints. "Your tricks won't work forever. The Empire has thousands of ships." "Warlord," Claire said patiently, "you keep thinking of this as tricks. These aren't tricks. This is protocol, standard operating procedure. Every human diplomatic mission works this way." She stood and activated a wall display. "Your intelligence network told you about our ship, our crew, our equipment, but you didn't ask the right questions." The display showed schematics of the Harmony. The innocent diplomatic vessel peeled away layer by layer, revealing weapons, shields, and systems that shouldn't have been possible in such a small craft. "Our engineers designed these systems 50 years ago," Jake explained. "After first contact protocols were established, we learned early that the galaxy isn't always friendly." Lisa pulled up more data. "Your scans detected exactly what we wanted you to detect. Basic shields, minimal weapons, standard engines. You never scanned for quantum-layered systems." "Impossible," Thrax muttered. "Not impossible. Just clever engineering." Claire smiled. "While you were building bigger ships and stronger weapons, we were building smarter ones." The chamber doors opened again. This time, human technicians entered with Caraxian prisoners in tow. Among them were several of Thrax's senior officers, all looking confused and defeated. One of them, a ship commander by his armor markings, stared at his warlord. "Sire, their ship. It moved like nothing we've seen. Our weapons couldn't lock on. Our shields were useless." Thrax's expression darkened further. "How many ships do they have?" "That's the thing," the commander continued. "Just one. One small ship destroyed our entire attack formation." "Not destroyed," Jake corrected. "Disabled. If we wanted to destroy your ships, this conversation wouldn't be happening." Claire paced the room, her boots clicking on the floor. "Warlord, your empire has been expanding rapidly. You've conquered many systems, but what have you learned from them?" "We've learned that strength prevails," Thrax growled. "No, you've learned that overwhelming force works against unprepared enemies. That's very different." She stopped pacing and faced him directly. "Your warriors are brave, your ships are powerful, your empire is vast. But you've forgotten the first rule of warfare, which is, know your enemy." Claire's voice was hard. "You didn't bother to learn about humans. You assumed we were like the others you've conquered. That assumption almost cost you everything." Lisa displayed new data on the wall. "Our deep space sensors detected your fleet movements 3 months ago. We've been preparing for this meeting ever since. Every word we spoke, every gesture we made, every piece of equipment we brought was designed to reinforce your prejudices," Jake added. "We gave you exactly what you expected to see." "Weak diplomats," Claire said. "Nervous soldiers, scattered scientists. You saw what you wanted to see." The chamber's communication system chimed. An automated voice announced, "Incoming transmission. From Earth Fleet Command." "Accept," Claire ordered. Admiral Peterson's image filled the main display. Behind him, the bridge of a massive warship was visible. "Ambassador Mitchell, Phase 2 is complete. All Caraxian ships in the sector are secured. Casualties, Minimal. Damage. Superficial. Excellent work, Admiral. Please inform the Council that first contact protocols have concluded successfully. Wait, Thrax interrupted. Your fleet was here the entire time? Admiral Peterson's laugh filled the chamber. Warlord, your scouts never detected our ships because you don't know how to look for them. We've been monitoring this entire meeting. The display changed to show tactical readouts. Hidden throughout the system were human ships, their stealth systems now deactivated. Vessels of all sizes surrounded every Caraxian position. How? Thrax's voice was barely a whisper. Claire looked down at him. Warlord, you've spent generations conquering species with your straightforward approach. Direct assault. Overwhelming force. But you've never fought an enemy who matched your strength with strategy. Jake checked his weapon systems, powering them down one by one. Every species has its strengths. Yours is military might. Ours is tactical innovation. And planning, Lisa added. Everything that happened here was rehearsed dozens of times. We knew you would try this. We prepared accordingly. The restrained Caraxian warriors were slowly regaining consciousness. As they woke, they found themselves surrounded by human marines. The fierce warriors who had mocked human weakness now seemed small and helpless. Your warlord is unhurt, Claire announced to them. Your ships are intact. Your crews are safe. We could have destroyed everything, but we chose not to. Thrax looked around at his subdued forces. Why? Why not destroy us? Because that's not our way, Claire replied simply. We don't conquer. We don't enslave. We defend what's ours and we give others the chance to join us as equals. She made a gesture, and Jake began powering down their restraint systems. You're free to go, Warlord. Take your ships, take your warriors, and return to your empire. Just like that? Thrax stood slowly, his armor clicking as he moved. Not just like that, Claire corrected. You'll return with a message. Tell your empire what happened here. Tell them that humanity won't be conquered. Tell them that if they truly value strength, they should respect it in others. Jake handed Thrax his ceremonial weapon. And tell them that our door is open for real negotiations. Between equals. As the Caraxians were escorted out, Thrax paused at the door. You could have destroyed us, why didn't you? Claire looked him in the eye. Because maybe someday the Empire will realize that strength and wisdom aren't opposites. When that day comes, we'd like to have friends, not just memories of enemies. Warlord nodded slowly. For the first time since the talks began, something like respect showed in his alien features. Perhaps, he said quietly, we will meet again under different circumstances. After the Caraxians left, the three humans remained in the chamber. Claire slumped into a chair, suddenly looking exhausted. Well, Jake said, holstering his weapons. That was fun. Lisa was already packing up her equipment. The easy part's over, now we have to write the reports. Claire laughed. I'll take a dozen Caraxian warlords over the bureaucracy any day. 3 months after the incident at Tempest Prime, Ambassador Claire Mitchell stood in a completely different kind of meeting room. This one was on Earth, in the heart of Geneva's diplomatic quarter. Sunlight streamed through tall windows and the furniture was human-sized. Across from her sat Warlord Thrax, looking uncomfortable in the smaller chair. His armor had been replaced with formal robes, and he was alone except for one advisor. No warriors lined the walls this time. Thank you for accepting our invitation, Claire said, pouring tea from a delicate pot. Thrax accepted the cup awkwardly. Your invitation was unexpected. Many things about humans are unexpected, she replied with a slight smile. Jake Harrison entered the room carrying a folder of documents. He wore a standard military uniform now, no hidden weapons or trick clothing. He nodded respectfully to Thrax before taking a seat. Warlord, Jake said formally, our military analysis teams have completed their evaluation of the Tempest Prime incident, and we're impressed. Your warriors adapted quickly once the situation changed. Lesser forces would have panicked. Thrax's expression shifted slightly. We were caught off guard. It will not happen again. Lisa Wong joined them, placing a data pad on the table. Unlike the nervous scientist from before, she now moved with quiet confidence. Actually, Warlord, we hope it won't need to happen again at all. She activated the data pad showing star charts. We've been monitoring Empire activity since our meeting. Your forces have shifted defensive positions and updated sensor protocols. We learned from our mistakes, Thrax said carefully. That's why we invited you here, Claire explained. The Caraxian Empire showed wisdom in sending you back as their representative. Thrax looked around the room, noting its simplicity compared to the grand chambers he was used to. Your human wisdom comes with many surprises. We thought we understood what diplomacy meant. And now? Jake asked. Now we understand that we understood nothing. Thrax set down his teacup. The Empire held an emergency council after my return. We reviewed every intelligence report we had on humanity. Lisa leaned forward. What did you find? We found that every species we've contacted described humans differently. Some said you were peaceful traders. Others said you were fierce warriors. Some said you were brilliant scientists. We thought these were contradictions. Claire smiled. They're not contradictions. We're all of those things depending on the situation. Yes. We now realize this is why you have succeeded where others failed. Thrax gestured with his large hands. We are warriors. It is our nature. We assumed others would be either warriors or not warriors. We never considered that some might choose when to be warriors. Jake nodded approvingly. You've learned the first lesson of human strategy, which is adaptability, all three humans said together. The room fell quiet for a moment. Thrax looked at each of them in turn, seeing them clearly for the first time. Ambassador Mitchell, he said finally, the Empire wishes to propose new terms. We're listening. Thrax drew himself up, speaking formally. The Caraxian Empire recognizes human sovereignty over all currently claimed systems. We propose a non-aggression treaty and wish to open trade negotiations. Claire exchanged glances with Jake and Lisa before responding. Those are acceptable starting points. What else? The Empire also wishes to learn, Thrax continued. We have been warriors for generations. We have forgotten other ways. Perhaps humanity can teach us. This admission seemed to cost him effort. A proud warrior race asking to be taught was unprecedented. What specifically would you like to learn? Lisa asked gently. Everything. Your military doctrine, your diplomatic strategies, how you balance strength with wisdom. Jake leaned back in his chair. Warlord, those lessons take years to learn. They're not just techniques, they're entire philosophies. We have time, Thrax replied simply. The Empire has existed for millennia. We can be patient. Claire stood and walked to the window. Outside, the city bustled with life, humans going about their daily business, unaware that galactic history was being made in this room. Warlord, 3 months ago you came to take our world. Today you're asking us to teach you our ways. Why the change? Thrax considered carefully. Because we saw something we had never seen before. We saw a species that could have destroyed us but chose not to. We saw warriors who prefer peace. We saw diplomats who were prepared for war. He paused, searching for words. In our culture, we respect only strength. But at Tempest Prime, we discovered that true strength includes wisdom, planning, and restraint. These are things the Empire has forgotten. Lisa pulled up another display. We've prepared some preliminary materials. Military philosophy, diplomatic history, strategic theory. It's graduate-level curriculum from our academies. Thrax examined the data with interest. This would be shared freely? Of course, Jake said. That's what allies do. The word hung in the air. Allies. Thrax stood and, despite his size, seemed somehow smaller than he had at their first meeting. Not physically, but in his bearing. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something that might have been humility. Ambassador Mitchell, do you believe the Empire can change? Claire turned from the window. Warlord, 3 months ago I watched you, realized that everything you believed about strength was incomplete. That's the hardest thing any warrior can face. She walked back to the table. But you didn't deny it. You didn't rage against it. You came here to learn from it. That tells me the Empire is already changing. Jake brought out an ornate box from his folder. Warlord Thrax, by the authority vested in me by the United Earth Fleet Command, I present you with these. He opened the box, revealing two items, a small device and a formal document. The device is a personal communicator, direct line to this office anytime you need it. The document is a provisional alliance treaty, subject to ratification by both our governments. Thrax stared at the items. After what happened? Because of what happened, Claire corrected. We learned as much from you as you did from us. Your warrior's courage under impossible circumstances. Your willingness to re-examine your beliefs when confronted with evidence. Your Empire's ability to change course when necessary. She extended her hand. These are qualities we value in allies. Thrax looked at the offered hand for a long moment, then grasped it firmly. The gesture felt significant, historic. One question, Ambassador, he said. If we had not attempted to take hostages that day, would you have revealed your weapons? Claire smiled, and for the first time he saw genuine warmth in it. Warlord, we revealed our weapons the moment I walked into that first meeting. You just didn't recognize them. The words, the gestures? Exactly. Every conversation is a weapon, Warlord. Every negotiation is a battlefield. We won that day not when Jake activated his armor, but when you first assumed we were helpless. Thrax nodded slowly. I have much to learn. We all do, Lisa said simply. That's why we keep meeting, keep talking, keep trying. As the meeting concluded, Thrax paused at the door. Ambassador, may I ask a personal question? Of course. Were you truly afraid when I first threatened your people? Claire considered this carefully. Fear is a tool, Warlord. I wasn't afraid because I knew something you didn't, but I needed you to think I was afraid, because fear was the tool that would save us. She reached into her earring, the same one she'd worn at Tempest Prime, and removed a tiny component. Every human diplomat carries one of these. It's not just a communicator, it's a beacon. The moment you threatened us, it told our fleet to move into position. So even your fear was prepared. Everything about human diplomacy is prepared. We hope for the best and plan for the worst. We smile while we sharpen our swords. We extend hands in friendship while keeping our defenses ready. Claire slipped the component back into her earring. That's the lesson, Warlord. True strength isn't the ability to win a fight. It's the ability to win without fighting, and when fighting becomes necessary, to win so decisively that your enemy becomes your friend. Thrax stood in the doorway for another moment, processing this final lesson. Then he bowed deeply, a gesture of respect the Empire reserved for equals. Until we meet again, Ambassador. After he left, the three humans remained in the conference room. Outside, Earth continued its daily rhythms, unaware that a new chapter in galactic relations had just begun. Think they'll actually change? Jake asked. Lisa was already making notes on her pad. Change is incremental, but they took the first step. Claire looked out at the city again. In 50 years, when historians write about this moment, they'll debate whether we lied to them or taught them the truth. What's the answer? Jake wondered. We did both, Claire replied simply. We lied about being helpless. We told the truth about being dangerous. We deceived them about our weapons. We revealed the truth about our nature. She turned back to her colleagues. That's what makes us human. We're not just one thing. We're everything the moment requires us to be. In the distance, a ship lifted off from the spaceport. Not a warship, not a diplomatic vessel, but a simple cargo hauler carrying goods to far systems. The peaceful engine of human expansion. The real victory, Claire thought, wasn't the battle at Tempest Prime. It was this moment, this conversation, this choice to teach rather than destroy, because in the end, that's what separated humans from every other species the Caraxians had met. Nuts.